So my name is David Naon. I come from the Dassault Systems company. We're located in France and in 80 countries. I'm going to tell you today what I believe is the good reasons to think that zSpace as a company with the current activities is definitely going in the very good direction in the VR industry. So this is my agenda. It's pretty dense, so fasten your belts. And I'm going to experiment something I created to try to classify the various companies that I have seen around doing VR technology. And so I sort of invented a kind of classification. We'll see if it works. I believe so. You'll tell me. I'm quite open for any comments. A little bit of my background. You can find it on LinkedIn. I originally come from a company where we've been doing content experiences for general public. People who don't know anything about 3D, they just come to a museum or to a public exhibition and they just experience something. In our case, that was very artistic content. And to make the story short, we invented a lot of technology. I was heading the R&D over there. And we invented some technology in particular that enables us to make use of PC clusters. So we could synchronize lots of machines together so that we didn't have to use big SGI machines, which were very expensive at that time. So we invented and we teamed with a few partners in building the first French cave, which was called, and still called the SAS Cube. And it happened that it was running on PC. And at that time, we met a company called Virtools. And we teamed together and we started building what was going to be one of the big success in the VR software world. So it's the Virtools VR pack or VR library. Which has been and is still running in maybe 20 or more caves and lots of VR centers worldwide. And this company, Virtools, has been acquired by Dassault Systems. So since this acquisition, I have been leading the domain around VR and more particularly what I will explain to be the Immersive Virtuality domain. A few words on our company, Dassault Systems. Basically, you know probably us, and I will describe that later, as a provider of CAD software and all that, but we're much, much more than that. And basically, we provide business and people with 3D experience universes to imagine sustainable innovations capable of harmonizing product, nature, and life. Okay, so big, big promise. And yes, our legacy was 3D CAD, CATIA, SolidWorks, and then DMU and PLM. And now we believe we're entering the era of the 3D experience. And we have this 3D experience platform, which is made of various components. I will not spend too much time in there. But the V plus R domain is where we can really provide solutions like 3D VR to experiment in 3D how future projects, products, workflows, processes, or whatever are going to be when they are on the market. As I was saying, we are the mother company of SolidWorks as well. And we're in other areas like intelligence information. We purchased a company called NetVibes that you may know, or Exalit. Okay, let's be quite fast on this area. We're serving 12 industries that range from the very historical ones like automotive and aerospace, up to consumer goods, consumer packaged goods, high-tech, industrial equipment, energy, architecture, engineering, and construction, service and banking, finance, and mining, and all this kind of stuff. Now back to our subject. I'm going to talk to you about the domain I'm in charge of that we call Immersive Virtuality. And basically, it's about linking the user through this action and perception loop, link it to the virtual. And what we even define our domain to be the one where we actually trigger the inner part of the brain. And this is extremely critical. zSpace is at the core of this kind of activities. If you haven't done so, I highly recommend you to read this book. I don't know if it's in any other language than French, but it's a very good introduction on the physiology and the psychology of the brain, and there's all the talks on that topic, which are really critical to really understand the core value of such systems like zSpace. We do define, actually, our domain like this, but this is not the topic too much. A little bit more of an introduction here is some terminology. So the customer is going to have an immersive experience, and let's look at what it is made of. So it's made of a container. The container is made of hardware and software inside the container, drivers, and some kind of user experience, I for immersive and UX for experience. The content is made of specific user experience, which is not in the container, so it's different depending on the content, the generic one being the same on the content. Then you have a scenario and you have some media. So the market of zSpace is to build this container. And a container of experience is much more than just a piece of hardware put together. It's the enabler of the experience. So the software part, which is in the hardware, and I'm not talking about the tracking software, which is the driver, which is okay, but this part is really critical. Okay, so now here is this challenge that zSpace is facing, zSpace and alike. Basically, zSpace is here. They're doing these containers of experience. And usually in a software company, well, what they want is to reach the customer. The customer can be of two kinds. You have individual customers who will actually be also the users, and you have professional customers, which will be the IT of the company you're selling with. It's the company who purchases, the IT purchases, and setups. So these are the ones you have to convince to buy your product. And the funny thing is that the PC has no more battery. If any technical person can have a look at that while I stay speaking. 22 minutes is going to be a bit too small. It's safe. Okay. So let me speed a little bit. Okay. So in the software company, you would have the guy who holds the product, the engineering team, and he will be supported by the design team in terms of user experience. And the marketing, product marketing will be handling the relationship with the top layers. So definitely you have a kind of cascading chain like this. We'll come back to that, but now we know who are the players engaged. We are powered up, and I don't have anything on screen. I do have anything on screen. So now, as I was promising, I said that I would talk about how zSpace is disrupting the industry based on a few examples. So here are a lot of technology in the VR area that we have seen on the market, or almost seen on the market, if I take that one or that one. This is the Leap Motion, and this is the Oculus Rift, which are the two devices that are not yet on the market that I will use as a reference as well. And we have many others. We have the Cintiq. These are tablets that you usually use for sketching. We have various HMDs. We have Space Mouse, the professional one and the more consumer one. We have the Falcon Novint. It's a haptic arm which was designed for gaming. We have a big cave here, running at a car manufacturer like PSA. We have the zSpace. We have Guitar Hero. We have the NVIDIA 3D Vision kit. We have the Nintendo DS and the Nintendo Wii with its Wiimote. We have the Bamboo, which is the baby of the Cintiq. And we have a Disney Quest experience, which is a kind of consumer cave. So what do we learn from all that? And how can we classify all this technology, and especially the zSpace, to compare these one with the others, or to compare the zSpace with these ones, to be able to predict or not how good is a given company in this area? There's one obvious criteria. It's the immersivity. But before we talk about immersivity, we can talk a little bit of the presence. If you haven't heard about the word presence, I highly recommend you to go to Mel Slatter's blog or publications. Mel Slatter have been the one who have democratized, who have spoken a lot about the concept of presence in virtual reality, in VR. And in particular, he speaks about, sorry, this happened to be in French, I didn't translate that. But it speaks about the place illusion and the plausibility illusion. These are the factors that this is what you feel when you're immersed. Place illusion is that you have the feeling that you're in another space, basically. And plausible illusion, well, both presence is having the feeling that you are in another space, that there is no medium, for instance. The place illusion is really the sensory motor dimension, the one that is located more in the inner part of your brain. And the plausibility illusion is more a cognitive concept, or in between, is something that is important to keep, is the coherence of the experience. If suddenly something, the system has a hiccup, suddenly it behaves in a non-continuous manner, you get out of the immersion. You have to be good at both. Presence is something very hard to measure. There is no unit in presence. There are people who are trying to measure the presence. There's a lot of publication. But there's one thing you can measure, it's immersivity. Immersivity is something that Mel Slatter has explained as a scale, where some device is more immersive than another, if with the more immersive one, you can simulate the less immersive one. In a cave, you can simulate a wall by turning off the other screens, for instance. Okay, so now let's speak about immersivity and how this could be a good scale based on what we learned from various examples. A cave, like a good cave, like the one we have in our headquarters and in the US as well, is something where you have very low latency, a wide field of view, very small pixels. You don't see any seeds in the wall when you're in the room, as opposed to a bad cave, which don't have all that. So these parameters, for instance, are variables that help you rank the immersivity of a system. Latency, I didn't say that too much in my introduction, but that's almost the definition of immersivity, is when you create this loop with a low latency. The 3DS experience, when you run the augmented reality game plus the 3D, is extremely plausible. You see something and you feel, you believe it's there. So that's a very good example. Speaking about latency, the leap motion has been extremely popular from the beginning because it's absolutely instantaneous. zSpace, to compare zSpace and leap motion is just like you cannot notice, never, 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 never. But zSpace is very good. So we're going to see how we can use this immersivity factor as one of our criteria to compare and rank the various devices. Now I'm going to speak about affordability. If you want your customer to buy a device. It has to be affordable. What we learned from failing devices, the Imagine is this HMD. The P site, sorry, it's on the second. It's this enormous, made of twice 9 panels. These ones were based on very promising technology, OLED microdisplays. The bad luck, or the bad idea, was that these were very expensive to manufacture at that time, still. So they chose to use it, and it was too early, not affordable. Same for the tracking. The tracking they've put in their HMDs were crap, because to get a good tracking, you had to spend thousands of dollars to buy InterSense or whatever very expensive devices. Now, because of the smartphone industry, you have inertial measurement units which cost a few tens of dollars. So this company, Oculus Rift, Oculus VR, they have integrated that in their system and optimized it. But it's based on a component which is already produced as consumer. And you probably didn't know, well, I really was surprised, but happily surprised when I understood that. Nintendo was extremely clever because the Wiimote, they invented basically the affordable, the $10, $20 Wiimote, where you can gesture and have a very nice immersive experience because it's really reactive, not like Kinect, by the way. And they used accelerometers coming from airbags. Airbags were on the market for 10 years, so accelerometers were costing just a few cents. And later, only they've added gyros to the device, because then it was mature and less expensive. So lesson to learn, affordability, and that's going to be our second criteria. My third criteria is the deployability. Deployability is when the IT job is made simple, or when the wearing experience is made simple. Again, well, a cave, now it's red in this context because running a cave requires to have a very dedicated IT that knows everything about projectors, trackers, clusters, stereo, whatever. And there's so many places where it can fail that it doesn't scale. Basically, the cost of operation of a cave is huge. Same for these, the P site. They used things that made it needed to adjust for like 5 minutes. You had to turn knobs in all directions to put it on. Maybe the technology was great, but the user experience was crap because it was not easily deployable. So the customer would just throw it out. This one was super easy and very nice to wear. So in this context, it's green. And just to conclude about the cave, I mean, in Disney Quest, the first one in Orlando, they had a kind of cave. It was fantastic. I went there, but they closed it because of this too complex thing to operate, and went back to HMDs. So deployability is going to be our third criteria. Now let's speak about what you believe, what is less in the container, but more in the content. We said we want to build the whole experience. The whole experience is made of container and content. If you don't have content, you can have the best container. It's going to fail. So how does a company ensure that you have content so that you have a turnkey experience that works? So there's two criteria about the content. My first criteria is the killer content. Yeah. What we learned, for instance, from Guitar Hero, you just buy a piece of hardware, you plug it, and you have the game which comes with it, and just by itself, it's playful. It's a killer usage. So one game, and it works. Basically, Space Mouse in the CAD industry, you just plug it, and you have something which works very well for the one who like it and have a good left hand. Same for the Cintiq. The Cintiq is highly totally designed to be used in drawing software. Okay, so that works. A single valuable usage may be enough to sell the device. The challenge now, or maybe the future challenge of zSpace, is to transfer their professional device to a consumer device. And this has been very hard for a lot of people. And basically, Wacom did a good job. The Bamboo came from the expensive one, and they just managed to make it. I don't know the size of the market, honestly, but I believe it's quite big, or it's okay. This company, unfortunately, who made this gaming haptic arm by trying to put this in the consumer market from the professional complex mounting industry or whatever, they just failed. So the conclusion is maybe that the usage that is okay here needs to be okay here. So that's a killer one. Now, you can have another value, which is the M, the multipurpose. So as opposed to the killer usage, the multipurpose is when you have a kind of platform, you buy it for multiple reasons. For instance, a cave, by design, is in a manufacturing industry who has a cave. They do a lot of experience in it for different services, the design, the manufacturing, the simulation, the whatever. So it's useful because it serves many usage. On the more consumer area, it's a real challenge to achieve this kind of thing. Nintendo is the one who actually is the king in this area because they actually sell the turnkey experience. They sell the platform, like the Wii or the 3DS, but they also sell the Mario game and all these games. So it's much easier for them. It proves the importance of the usage. But other companies made it quite well. Oculus Rift is doing a very good job in partnering with gaming content providers for various gaming. Leapmotion, we don't know yet. This device, they are building a high active community. Also using pre-ordering or this one was using Kickstarter. This one, the Oculus, this one was using pre-orders. Any of these is a good way to trigger adoption from the ecosystem. But this kind of strategy, even NVIDIA has tried that with their 3D vision system. They went to each game developers, they were giving them units and say, try this game, try to optimize them, and they make the driver automatically recognize what game is running so that it adapts a little bit. But is it really working? I don't know. So anyway, this is our other criteria, the multipurpose. So we come up with the MADIC chart. I didn't copyright the name. I don't like it that much, but I don't know what it means in any language. Maybe it's a bad word in Indian. I don't know. But OK, now you can remember it. Multi-purpose, affordable, deployable, immersive, and killer purpose. And so now let's see. And yeah, to summarize, deployable, you just run it. You don't have to be a geek to run it. Immersive, you fake your perception to make virtual as real as reality. Killer purpose, if I remove it, how can you keep living if you're a gamer or working if you're a worker? Multipurpose, if I buy it for one usage, will I find other that sustain my investment? Affordable, if it's made with massively produced component or by itself. So now let's see how we can use that chart to compare things together. So the first thing I've tried is to compare a cave and a zSpace. A cave is very immersive, or let's say a high-end cave. Very multipurpose, we say that here. it has a lot of killer purposes. To review an assembly sequence, it's something that is widely done in the car manufacturing industry, for example. But it's not affordable at all, and it's not deployable at all. So you have this surface here. And the zSpace is very deployable. A little bit to achieve, I will discuss that. It's very immersive, but I would say why we need to be a little bit more. Very affordable, I mean much more, but there's some room left. And regarding the usage, I will discuss this later. Currently, I'm not sure there's any killer purpose yet. And how good is it as a multi-purpose platform? I don't know yet. If we look at some more like competitors, I would say, to zSpace currently, you have the Cintiq. Somehow the Cintiq, if the people from Wacom decided to turn it 3D, what would happen, for instance? You have the 3D vision, like the stereo glasses plus the monitor. Somehow it's a competitor to zSpace. User experience is not as good. This is why it is not as immersive here. It is more deployable because, I mean, there is nothing that really makes it a problem. Maybe the lighting because it's active. I don't know. Very affordable, more than any of the others, if I'm talking about that one. Probably very multi-purpose, more than any of the others. But not any killer. I'm not even sure that there's any game that deserves or needs to be run in 3D, not even an FPS game. But tell me if I'm wrong. You agree? Yeah. Interesting, so the Cintiq is something which zSpace doesn't have. It's more affordable. It has its killer purpose, we said it. Not that much multi-purpose. Mostly it's here for drawing and that's it. And not as immersive, or maybe, where did I put it? Maybe as immersive. Why so? Because, I mean, the Cintiq is quite immersive in the sense that the reactivity is very high. The latency is small. So in that sense, you really have the feeling that you're inside the content. But that can be discussed. I mean, this chart is a way to discuss, or could be. The C-Station, I don't know if you know that. It's a different user experience, but really similar to the zSpace. But the difference is that you have a mirror here, and the screen is on the top. So that means that the screens that you perceive is the zero parallax screen is in here, like the zSpace. But the good thing is that you can go across it, because there's a mirror. So with your tracking, you're not limited to the external surface of the display. You can go across. So that's one of the interesting factors. Another interesting factor is that standard in the system, you have something to do with your left hand. So the left hand is usually holding an object which has these reflectors, like the ones you have in the zSpace glasses. And the tracking unit that you can't see here, which is behind, tracks the left hand. So you have this bimanual interaction, which is extremely immersive, more than the zSpace, because you have more, I would say, of your neurons that are active, or the presence is bigger. And if you make the experience, you can really judge that. So the C-Station is more immersive. It is somehow more multi-purpose because of the fact that you have the two hands, so you can do more things like training of tasks that has two hands, for instance, which would be more difficult to do with the zSpace. It doesn't have too much more killer usage. There's one. They've sold a turnkey system for medical viewing, but it's not a massive market. And yeah, the bad side is that it's more expensive. So, but well, you can see where these two are. So each one has, and obviously the deployability. The deployability of the zStation is a nightmare. They did something very, very, very stupid. Sorry for them. Well, they are my partner as well. I mean, there's a lot of settings. Settings are the enemy of deployability. The zSpace has no setting. There is just one zSpace. It's like a console. And this is why the gaming market is on consoles and not on PC, because on a console, you exactly know what the end user is going to have, because there is not so much variance. So zStation for that is crap. But OK, that's it. OK, now, how can zSpace improve? I found one thing which makes me think that zSpace needs more in the deployability is the fact that when you put it in a trade show, for instance, there are great chances that there's going to be some light behind you that make it fail. I understood that this is being solved. Anyone from zSpace that can confirm that? No? OK, so maybe I know information. But I think this has been worked out, or it's on the way. Find a place for the keyboard. I'll discuss this tomorrow. I give another presentation in the UI area. But yeah, guys, I mean, you have the keyboard here, and your screen behind. Do you want me to have the arms in the air all the time? No. So you have to solve that. Immersivity. You have to support the left hand or the non-dominant hand activity in standard, in the UI. By default, you have to document exactly what people should do with their left hand, because you're losing a lot of degree of freedom, at least 6. Plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a lot. Maybe try the lip motion with it. We're going to do that, actually. I have an intern who's going to work on that. Affordability, I don't know. But I believe that the components in zSpace are quite mainstream. Infrared cameras, that goes fast so that you don't have too much latency. Not so inexpensive. But maybe that's one of the things that can happen. Like the Wacom, for instance. The market makes it in the professional area, so you have a professional market which is big enough so that you can start to massively produce this component yourself or make purchases to your provider in a wider, in a bigger number and reduce the price until you trigger the consumer market, and then it's really going to be affordable. The good news is that the company is apparently well-founded, so you have time to work on that. Not a big deal. Now, let's see how zSpace is behaving in this area. And let me show you, I have 11 minutes left, so or maybe a little bit more. So I'll go fast. This is a part of a presentation I did in other contexts that explains the life cycle of a product. Basically, you start by imagining a product, then you model it, you simulate its usage, you produce it, then you'll explain how people should use it or do anything with it. Then it's on the market. You have to maintain it, you have to operate it, you have to run it, and potentially also, or in parallel, you have to sell it, depending on the... So what I suggest here is to review on each of, and then you close the loop and you refine the specification. That's a PLM life cycle, basically, What I suggest is that we analyze quickly on each of these areas where any immersive virtuality experience can have its room, its place, and what are the benefits. So for instance, for presenting new concept. When you're in the concept phase, you want to have, for instance, the capacity to experience what would be the car, a new experience for the user of the car at scale 1. So this is very good in a cave. And same for assembly line ergonomics. This is pretty much AR, but basically, I believe that for instance, in the consumer good industry, presenting a product, or in the high tech, presenting a product on a zSpace to convince the investors to actually run the new product is a killer experience. It gives you ability to have a quantitative knowledge of your product because you know what the people are looking at, for instance, even if you don't track the eyes. Basically, you can understand what would be the final user experience, and you can assess the customer's perceived value. So these are generic benefits in this area where immersive virtuality can bring significant value, and this space in particular. The modeling part, would you be creating shapes or assembling stuff together, is also something where I believe zSpace has a great role to play. And actually, we did a prototype, which is here in the table over there, so you can try it. We ported some modeler that we have similar to SketchUp, but based on our CATIA modeler to the zSpace, and it's very well working. The good thing is that it enables to have casual users use something that otherwise they would not use. And this is probably where it's the most critical value, is because it lowers the step to actually use 3D, because then it becomes as natural as reality. So that's one of the areas where we can see room. We also did some experiment in assembling things, also with the SolidWorks team and the CATIA team. I did a prototype, but I will show the video tomorrow in the other presentation. Probably great value. Other value is the fact that it leads better creativity. Triggering more neurons, being closer to the experience of reality, I would say, because of this place illusion, because you have the feeling that you're in another world, you have the insight that you have in reality. And you don't get that on a desktop with a mouse and a keyboard, because you keep a distant relation with the virtual. Let me take a little break. Also, you can sometimes go faster in doing what you're doing. For instance, here it's an experience where you sketch something on a tablet, and with the left hand, I told you the left hand, you change the point of view while you're drawing. So it's much faster than using changing the mode manipulator. Okay. Documentation, instructions, anything that helps explain how you use or you should use a system. We made, and hopefully we'll have the demo run this afternoon, I hope. There was some bug. It's a demo, actually. It's not a product yet. But we're looking for customers who would definitely say, I want to have that. We took 3D VIA Composer and we modified it to support the zSpace. So we hopefully will show that. I'll show the video anyway tomorrow. And this is very interesting. Globally, it's where the longer lasting and the efficiency of transfer from virtual to real, are the key benefits of having an immersive experience in the context of training and documentation. Good value. Operation, maintenance, anything where your product is already running and you want to be sure, to use the 3D as a way to understand what's happening in reality. This actually should not be here because it has nothing to do here. It's probably on the previous one, it's a mistake. But if you look at, for instance, in this energy Word, BASF, which is a customer of us. They're using a virtual 3D replica of their plant, which contains a lot of information of what is the state of the plant in operation. So when they want to query the system, instead of entering request with text or whatever, they just enter their Powerwall and they run the experience and they click on different parts to understand what's happening, or sometimes there is visual metaphors that explains the state of whatever tube or whatever something. Does it need maintenance? Is it too hot? Whatever. Very good, straightforward access saves time. And also inside, you understand better things. You see emerging information because you're in it. Here, and that could be definitely transferred to the zSpace. I think there's one demo about data. How do you organize information, and when you're inside the information, minority report kind of stuff, you have this value that I was describing. And last, and probably but not least, the value as a sales tool. I think my friend from VRLogic is going to explain some of this topic tomorrow. Having a product virtually exist in the near personal space of the user with all this presence is an obvious first step towards a purchasing decision, because you're lowering the risk of something which would be too far from what you expect. Product is familiar before it's purchased. You have this wow attraction on the store also, very interesting. It drives traffic because it's wow. And yeah, we did this with Nestle. It's a game with a cereal box. It was a big, big success, and definitely an obvious, excellent area for this space. I would skip that one. So to make it short, you have all these benefits, which is generic to IV, to immersive virtuality, but can be definitely applied for zSpace. Enhance product quality, enhance product user experience, enhance customer perceived value, enhance creativity, efficiency, and enjoyability. Okay, so we're almost done. Now that we've seen all these potential killer usage, how can we say or not that zSpace is doing the good job to be sure that the consumer at the end is going to purchase the platform at the bottom? And I believe they're doing a quite good job. At least I can judge from the relation zSpace has with Dassault Systèmes. In, for instance, supporting us, my team, which is an internal sponsor, because basically what you want is to have the engineering team start to invest guys and time of these expensive guys in starting to produce a product which is dedicated for zSpace or supports it very well. So they've helped us in doing so and listening to our requirements, for instance, implementing the VRPN server. I think there's also a conference tomorrow on that topic, but basically standardizing the interaction with software that already support that. They're helping our marketing very well because they've given us loan units so that we can jointly demonstrate the joint value. We do joint events and all these kind of things. And even at the CEO level, they're triggering reaction on our CEO that then goes to all these guys and say, hey, you should do something. And last but not least, the final end user has got a great end user experience because it's embedded in the platform. So I would say this is a really good. A small word about the marketing value of IV in general and zSpace in particular. In my team, actually, we're selling, I I get paid to do this kind of stuff. Nice job, actually. We do racing cars and we do concept cars, except that we don't do cars, we do experience. But basically, we're here to ensure, for instance, that CATIA or SolidWorks or Delmia or 3D can run in our cave. Our cave is our racing car equivalent. And then people will buy just regular Volkswagen Golf, you know. But showing the way, it's very good for R&D. Showing the way, which is the ultimate thing, makes the regular product go a bit higher because they understand what is their future somehow. And we do concept cars. That is, we try things, we research the value, research the usage with customers, with prospects, with collaborators and all that. So having people, I mean, doing this and it fits quite well. And I definitely, let you use this kind of metaphor also to convince other software vendors of how they can internally sell this kind of activity. A small word on the consumer area. I didn't speak too much about anything but PLM. I have lots of ideas on the topic I can discuss with you. There's one area I believe there's a place for a good future for zSpaces, the do-it-yourself world. Especially, and there's also talks tomorrow on that topic, but you all know this area, the 3D printer. The 3D printer is the way to make the virtual come to real. So that will support activities in the virtual, because doing things that stay in the virtual is not very interesting, except for kids who play World of Warcraft or these kind of community games. But if you want to touch the young kids, the older one, the woman, you have to enter this do-it-yourself world where you spend time doing little things where at the end you're very proud of what you've done. And if it ends up in the real, then you can show it to anyone. My conclusion is that zSpace is definitely likely to disrupt the industry due to its capacity to be the most immersive desktop platform, to be the most easily deployable immersive desktop platform, to be the most affordable immersive desktop platform, provided components can be produced in mass, and to be the most valuable platform to deploy killer applications, at least in the professional PLM market. And I think I'm done. Thank you for your attention.
We have time for some questions if anyone in the audience has any. Please raise your hand.
Any question? Yes, please, over there.
What do you think is the most immersive system that you've seen so far? It looks like the cave that you guys made is pretty immersive, but what do you think is the most immersive system, the most interesting out today, or maybe not even out on the market yet?
The most immersive experience I had was with an HMD, which has a field of view like this, with a Vicon system running at 300 hertz, so with the latency of probably 2 milliseconds. It's just, that was just blowing me. It's manufactured by a company, a Japan company called Crescent in Tokyo. And they sell this HMD. But I mean, it uses projector. The bad thing is that it weighs about 10 kilos or something like this. So you cannot wear it for more than 5 minutes. But you're really, when you take it off, you just wonder what you're doing here because you were totally over there. Any other question? Yes, over there we have a question. Sorry, I have the light just in the face.
Hello, I'm a haptics researcher, so obviously I'm interested in hearing why you think the Falcon failed, in your opinion, and
Yeah.
what can we do to fix haptics?
Well, haptics by itself has a lot of magic, but to be used by a consumer product, it needs to really enhance the consumer experience. And the only consumer experience that people so far thought of was gaming. So they used it, they made a lot of small games. They were nice, but just nice. Not killer. Not any of these were just like, as I was saying, if I take you off, can you still live? If you remove that, to me, I'm lost. I mean, it's just impossible. So not like this with haptics at this level. There's one haptic experience that I believe in very much, which can be definitely coupled with the zSpace, and it's very close to what I was saying about do-it-yourself. It does sculpturing, freeform. I think she was like 8 years old when she tried the sensible, the Omni, the inexpensive one, but still very expensive, with a virtual sculpting thing. And we couldn't take, it was in a museum, and we say, okay, it's time to leave. And she was crying to stay. But the strange thing is that nobody took it as really a turnkey solution, sculpting in virtual experience. It was sold as a device, not as a sculpting experience. So maybe with zSpace, definitely coupling the two, coping with the fact that where should I put it? Because you have this same problem. This is why there's many experience of haptics together with this immersive experience with a mirror, because then you can have you have space for your. But maybe we can just put the zSpace a bit higher. I don't know. If you try that, tell us. There's one question over there first. Can you use the microphone because I cannot hear so well?
You were talking about deployability. You said that settings were sort of the enemy of that because PCs have so many settings, that's why the video game market is on consoles. And I'm wondering then, why doesn't that apply to the zSpace? Because if the zSpace is being used for things besides gaming, as you're suggesting, wouldn't that hurt its potential as a gaming platform?
You're right. So if I would to give an advice to zSpace, if they want to hit the gaming world, they should work with the console manufacturers more than the PC. At least in many countries. I know in Germany it's not the case. And it will probably depend on the platforms. MMORPGs are mostly on PCs, so that could work. Third-person shooter game or RTS are also not so much on console, more on PC. So, yes. On BCI? Yeah. BCI, the challenge, so BCI is how you can use the brain waves to interact with your computer. The issue with BCI is that there's a lot of variability depending on people. So to be deployable, it needs a very clever way to cope with that. And usually what people do is, the BCI things I've seen working, you have to put it, and then there's a training phase. You have to think of that, and then that gesture triggers and this kind of thing. It takes quite a time, and so there's a challenge about deployability. I think we have to close the session now. One last question, or we close? We close. So you ask for me directly. Thank you.